Does your outlook for the future match with the will of Elohim? Does your view for the future align with what Elohim has told us in His Word? Or does it match more with what the world generally hopes for? These things mainly being peace, prosperity, equality, and success. It's a reasonable question to ask ourselves. Many people believe in Elohim and say that they accept Yahshua for their salvation. But when it comes to what Elohim has said about the world and His coming judgment upon it, it seems that many ignore His prophecies on the matter. This is very much a problem for today's church. A large percentage of the Christian community gets up every Sunday to go to church, not looking to understand how to be more aligned with the will of Elohim, but they are looking for lessons to achieve prosperity and abundance so they can receive more of the resources of this world. But is that purpose biblically sound? Too many of us are driven by our own need for success and to obtain the riches of life. We have such a love of this world that often places us in complete opposition to the Elohim we say we love and worship. Many of us ignore or do not even know of His doctrine, calling us to not be of this world. We all need to ask ourselves some serious questions, because the direction the world is heading towards is the exact same direction that Elohim has told and forewarned us about in His Word. And many of us are so involved in the ways of the world while professing a strong love for the Messiah that we are confused and are double-minded. A majority of believers in Yahshua today are chasing after success, as normally identified by the house you live in, the cars you drive, how much money you make, or how many followers you have on social media. But is this biblically what Elohim intends for us when we are deemed to be successful? Is it a goal of Elohim for us to obtain wealth and success in this world? Is it a goal of Elohim for us to have peace and racial equality? When I'm on social media, I hear a lot of people who speak for Elohim. They are always suggesting that the best times have yet to come. Now to clarify, they are not speaking of the eternal treasures Elohim has for us when Yahshua calls for His bride. They are speaking of the pleasures of this world. That our season of financial success is right over the horizon. The most deceptive thing is that these people are always the most positive types, and quite often, they are even pastors themselves. They are not talking about anything negative. A lot of them, like I said, classify themselves as Christians. But the question is it biblically sound? Does their view match up with the word of Elohim? The sad answer to that question many times is no. These people that often sound very positive, they sound like the type of person that you may want to be around. Many people often like hearing these kind of views. The masses love to identify with the God that only wants us to be rich, happy, and successful if we work hard for it. That we should only be positive. That He wants equality and loves everything and everybody. No one wants to even consider the loving God that will eventually judge the earth based on His word that He left us. They don't even want to consider that maybe Elohim doesn't want us to be rich with earthly treasures. The word of Elohim tells us that in these last days, people will not take sound doctrine. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 3 and 4 says, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up from themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables." 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 4 says, "They will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim." The word tells us in Isaiah that Satan became proud and wants to ascend to the heights of heaven like Yahweh. He wants to be worshipped in place of Yahweh. This is what the direction of the world is moving towards now as we speak. Many do not realize that they are moving more in line with the goal of Satan more than pleasing the Elohim of Israel. Their worldview is completely secular, but later adds a little Jesus in it. But their goals in life are not about the Father's will. Remember, it's supposed to be about His kingdom come, His will be done. But so many of us are only thinking about ourselves. Now it's our kingdom come, our will be done. While we hypocritically then say out of our mouths that we love Yahshua. Yahshua says in Matthew chapter 15, verses 8 and 9, "These people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." How many of us are worshiping Him in vain, honoring Him with our lips and our mouths, but our hearts are far from it? How many of us are getting caught up with the ways of this world? We start picking sides in this fake political system that forces us to go against many moral beliefs that we hold, but we feel we have to pick a side. We start trying to get ahead in this world and sometimes step over a few people to get where we're trying to go. Many of us do not know that we are more aligned with Satan and his goals more than we are with Yahweh's. Satan believes in do what thou wilt, meaning do what you want, and the survival of the fittest. Only the strong survive. With this mentality, we no longer focus on placing Elohim's commands above everything else. We no longer think about helping the poor and weak, and that it's more blessed to give than to receive. Many of us have replaced God's plan for our own, and then we just include him in later. We want to be rich. We want to be successful. We want to be liked. We want to be famous. We want nice things. And so what we have done is align ourselves with the world and its goals and its ways and ignore the true purpose we were created for. We have moved away from Elohim's goal for our lives. Satan has dangled the world in our face, created the path, and then told us this is the path we need to take in order to obtain it, and then keeps us distracted by devices and sellouts, so that for many of us, it is difficult to get back on the right path. You need to get back to the plan Elohim has for your life, and you will only understand what that is when you start actually meaning his kingdom come, his will be done. Get away from the false reality, the matrix that Satan has created for you. Stop worrying about what Donald Trump is doing. He, like every other president, is just a puppet of the true elite that takes orders from Satan. Stop worrying about becoming rich and successful. This global economy is built on unsustainable debt that is going to collapse. The money of today will be worthless tomorrow. Stop talking about politics and being part of the political divides. These sides have been created to separate us. They are tools of mass manipulation. Oh, and that goal of world peace that you're hoping for will only come about through war and destruction and worship of the Antichrist. World peace comes through worship of the beast. And why are you looking for racial equality? True peace and love will only be found through the Messiah Yahshua. And look, the world is rejecting him. Whatever equality you are seeking from the world will come with a lot of other things you do not want. The laws of men are not going to change their hearts. These are not Elohim's plans. This is the plans of the world. And if you're aligning yourself with more of those thoughts, as well as others, rather than preparing as many as you can to worship our Creator in spirit and in truth, then you are following the wrong goals and plans. You need to make James chapter 4, verse 4 a part of your daily life and live through it. It says, adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with Elohim? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of Elohim. Did you know it said that? Did you know that your desire of being a friend of this world makes you an enemy of Elohim? So you must realign your values and your beliefs. You must make Elohim's will the priority of your life. All those goals you had for yourself may have seemed good, and maybe everyone you know supports you and is proud of you because you're heading on in the world and doing well. But it doesn't matter if in the end you have made our Creator an afterthought. You've now made him your enemy. Because the further they go out to obtain the world, the more of an enemy of Elohim they are making themselves. It happened with me. I went to chase the world. And as I went to chase the world, I made myself more of an enemy of Elohim. I chased the things that he hated rather than pursued the things that he loved. And this is a common situation for the majority of us. We are raising ourselves and our kids with the mindset of being accepted by the world, and less accepted by Elohim. I have a cousin that believes that, well, we just need a little bit of balance. That balance will send us straight to hell. When you say you are balancing your love for God with living practical in this world, straight up, you are trying to balance God with Satan. Whenever you are doing this, Satan has won. We may get ridiculed, have less friends, lose respect from others, get our feelings hurt. Many bad things will happen when you get out the matrix. But we need to please Elohim more than we please men. All of those negative things I mentioned are just a part of bearing our cross. Yahshua said in Mark chapter 8, verses 34 through 38, whoever desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel will save it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him the Son of Man also will be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. You better listen to that. So maybe you have gained respect for many others. Maybe the world is embracing you and you're reaping much success in the world today. Maybe you feel that that's how you must raise your kids in order for them to make it in this world. Understand, all of that is not Elohim's plan. That is the goal and plans that Satan has created for you. It doesn't matter if you're successful in this world and this world has embraced you. That only matters if we don't truly have a Creator that has his own purpose for us. But let me tell you that we absolutely do. We absolutely have a creator that has his own purpose for us. And it's up to you to decide if he matters more than gaining this whole world. You have to make this decision. It's a personal decision. No one else can make it for you. Your outlook for the future must be aligned with the word of Elohim. It should not be based upon the teachings of the world. You cannot be like many people of today, including the leaders and members of many churches. They don't look to Yahshua for what he says about his second coming and his judgment. They look for him to help them reap the benefits to live a good life here on earth. They're seeking earthly treasures, expecting that the treasures are what Elohim wants for them. Everybody that's talking about getting a promotion, making that extra money, winning the lotto, whatever they're talking about today, they think he wants them to be successful in obtaining the things of this world. Don't ever forget that the world hates him. John chapter 15, verses 18 and 19, Yahshua says, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you." You see, it's better that the world hates you more than loves you. Don't be a follower of Yahshua that is loving the things of the world that he told us not to love. A world that he told us not to be a part of. A world that he told us would hate us. How many have lost that message? It seems like too many. They've either lost the message or never knew it in the first place because they're not reading his word and their church is tickling their ears, teaching them worldliness instead of righteousness. Or they are picking and choosing what parts of the Bible they want to believe in and they forget the rest. This video was made to be a wake-up call for anyone that needed to hear it because time is almost up. And the good news is that you still have time to make things right. This video is about people aligning their worldview with what Abba, our Father, has told us about through his word. We all must read it. We must not be of this world. We must base our opinions on what Elohim has said and what he wants for us. When we align these views with what the world believes and what the world says, we run a very big risk of not understanding what the Father really wants for us, the world and his church. We run the dangerous risk of Yahshua saying to us, "I never knew you." Please do not just follow someone merely because they have a positive message for tomorrow. Do not follow them simply because it's a simpler choice and it's easier to do and more pleasant to hear. Beware of those that speak for Elohim but not with scriptures, regardless of how positive they may sound. Always make sure that it 100% aligns with the word of Elohim. There's nothing wrong with positivity and positive thinking, but it is wrong when it goes against Elohim and his word. A lot of times, it is actually New Age religious belief masqueraded around Christianity. Whatever our view is, if you are a believer of Yahshua the Messiah and the word of Elohim is your source, your view should always align with the word. Always make sure that your doctrine and views align with all scripture. The truth is, there is an awesome hope for those that believe on the Master Yahshua the Messiah. But the harder truth is there is also judgment and hardship for those that don't believe in him. If your views are aligned more with the world and not really with what Elohim says about the world, stop everything you're doing and repent. Read his word for understanding, correctness, guidance, and discernment. Match your future with what Elohim has said about it. Forget about all the rest. If you are a believer in Yahshua the Messiah and are a member of his church, completely surrender your life to him and be ready, for our Savior is near.